bitter cold gusts ripped through the thermal underwear he wore underneath his camouflage, biting into his very bones. He had climbed into his tree stand about 30 feet up a yellow-leaved cottonwood, and had huddled with his knees to his chest to fight the freeze. As he scanned the open field in the midst of the woods, the hunter admired the beauty of the frost-tipped grass that reflected the full moon setting in the early morning. He thought he loved this time of year, but rumors of unexplainable occurrences and a thick fog seen in the distance inching its way closer advised him that he would not be out here very long. As the glowing moon dipped under the horizon, opposite of the arising fog, the hunter decided to peruse the scenery one last time before quitting the hunt or risk getting lost in the fog. In the final sweep, his pulse quickened. He noticed an odd silhouette against the fog about 200 yards away from his front left. The twilight made his unaided sight untrustworthy, so he decided to put his binoculars to his stubbled face. The magnified black figure had many details in the shadowed darkness, but he could see the outline of the beast. The hooved feet connected with what seemed to be abnormally long legs. The elongated fingers wisped in the breeze, but came to a pointy end. Its stretched arms were connected to a thin torso, but the muscles bulged from its shoulders. As the hunter scanned up the profile, he distinguished the ears and the way they came to a point half a foot above its head. The only colors the creature reflected were white teeth that had as many edges as a bandsaw blade, producing a menacing smile, and thin, blood-red slits where pupilled eyes normally were. Just as the hunter gathered all of this information, in the span of about 10 seconds, the thing disappeared into the overcoming fog. He slowly lowered his binoculars. The town wouldn't believe that he had actually seen what was causing the unexplainable occurrences. He now knew how disfigured, gory stray animals dotted the main street after a full moon night. He now knew how a whole herd of cattle had been mutilated, their flesh strewn across a bloody field, their bones shattered into millions of pieces like broken glass. He now knew how a group of young grade schoolers, taking a field trip to a quaint pumpkin patch, had been mauled by what seemed to be a bear in a bear-less part of the country. The bus offering no protection, as it ended up like a crushed pop can. Even though he knew the sun was peeking over the horizon, it only created an eerie glow through the fog. He decided to get down from the cottonwood, but as he looked down from his tree stand, he noticed the fog crept to where he couldn't see the ground. He thought he might stay, as quiet as a graveyard in his tree stand. But the crashing of a fallen tree somewhere in the fog, and the stench of death permeating his surroundings, made him think differently. The deafening break of the silence came opposite of the place his vehicle was parked, so he quickly climbed down the tree, leaving everything but his gun. As soon as he hit the ground, a sharp pain shot from one shoulder to the other, causing him to lose his balance. He turned around as he fell and pulled the trigger at whatever was behind him, but the gun's safety was still on. It wouldn't have mattered if the rifle had fired because the pain producer disappeared into the mist. He picked himself off the ground and noticed a stark red streak melting the frost on the ground. He made his mind up as he turned his safety off, that he wouldn't be the next unexplained occurrence, and hurried in the direction of his truck, the sweat on his brow only amplifying the cold. As the leaves crunched underneath his boots, he could hear branches cracking from all directions in the mystifying fog. One loud snap came only feet away from him, and he stopped to aim his gun into the haze. The hush that surrounded him as he aimed stopped his warm blood from flowing through his body, making him ice cold. With the calm over the next few achingly long seconds, he became somewhat hopeful. But just as he lowered his gun, something soundlessly came from his right and knocked him clean off his feet, rifle flying into the unknown mist. A sting went from his knee to his brain, making him scream in pain, and also making him become even more desperate. With a limp, he began in the direction he thought his truck was. The fog seemingly clearing as the sun warmed the day. He couldn't hear anything besides his own heavy breathing, taking in the putrefying smell. He was only a few short 100 feet from his truck, and the black beast towered over him in his path. A demonic hand swept across his face, knocking him to the ground. His terrified cries magnified each time the sound of crushing bones echoed off the trees. The monster cut through the hunter's skin and severed the veins as easily as a freshly sharpened bandsaw blade, cutting through butchered meat. With one last violent crack, the sounds disappeared with the fog. Now, you may be wondering how I know every detail of this occurrence. The last surviving human did die, didn't he? You see, I was watching the whole thing. I looked down from my solitary perch as my monster, yes, my monster, crunched and swallowed the last bone as his back bristled. The reason why I'm telling you this is because the creature looked at me one last time with his diabolic red eyes, looked deep into his creator's soul, licked the last drop of blood from its lips, slowly turned into the thick forest, and was never seen again. I should have known what would happen when I put the hooves of a dead goat, the wings of a dead bat, teeth of a dead crocodile, and the muscle fibers of a dead, crazed gorilla, and the drops of my very own blood into the fire. My basement instantly smelled of the most decaying death you can imagine. The beast that limped from the fire had a meanness about it, but it obeyed my every command. It grew more and more evil with each act, starting with killing the dog that kept me up at night, to eliminating the neighbor's cattle. Then it started to do things I didn't tell it to do. I awoke a fortnight ago to him getting out of his cage and followed him to that field of death, only watching because I knew my efforts could not save the hunter. Now, though, I don't know where it is. I feel like it will always be hunting, waiting for the opportune moment to kill again. It may be the thing that makes you wonder what's in the cellar in your backyard, or in the basement of your house. It may be the brief disturbance when you think something is peering around the corner, waiting to pounce when you least expect it. It may be the thing you think you see in the mirror when you look at your reflection and notice something stir behind you. It may cause the brief cold tingling sensation along your spine that you're feeling right at this very moment. But I have to quit writing, because it may be the thing that's breathing its warm, putrid breath on my neck right now.
Hey guys, it's Wolf. I just wanted to say thank you again for listening to my stories. This is a new thing for me, so again, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to really listen to the stories and give me your feedback. I'm looking forward to doing this more often, again, every Monday and Friday. And if you guys have any ideas of what I should be reading or if I should be editing any differently, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. So if you guys have any feedback for me, that'd be perfect, just because I want to continue to develop this channel and have a lot of fun with it. So yeah, if you guys have anything for me, leave them in the comments below, and hopefully I see you guys in the next one. Thank you again.